We've had some pretty crazy characters going in and out of the county board. We've had, just in the last couple of years, we've had two people resign, right? Nora Vargas and Nathan Fletcher.
Yep.
Oh, or was it three? There was another guy, Dave.
Dave Roberts.
Yeah, Dave Roberts resigned. Well, three people.
Yeah.
You know?
All Dems. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, they were. Okay, so did the county pass the anti-gun regs that they were trying to pass? We talked about this. You probably saw it in our email. The answer is no. Anti-gun supervisor Terra Lawson-Remer introduced a regulation to stop licensed gun dealers from doing business with law enforcement agencies in San Diego. This, of course, is her way of hitting two birds with one stone. She doesn't like law enforcement, and she really doesn't like gun owners, so why not make it hard for cops to prepare and hurt gun dealers at the same time? That's exactly what this regulation was trying to do. Her reasoning from the dais was absolutely ridiculous. She talked about why she wanted to do this. And she basically said that the city of San Diego passed it, so we should be consistent with what they do. And then she said that licensed gun dealers in San Diego are essentially bad actors, is the exact quote that she used. And expecting them to comply with laws is a, quote, wing and a prayer. That's how much she thinks about gun owners and specifically gun dealers. She couldn't bring herself to publicly pretend that this new law would actually keep anybody safe because it wouldn't. But the regulation did not get enough votes Tuesday to pass. Big thanks to Supervisor Joel Anderson and Supervisor Jim Desmond for working with San Diego County gun owners to make sure that they voted against this. Desmond absolutely agreed with us. If an FFL is in business, then they're a legal business to do business with. Side note, Monica Montgomery Stepp, who was on the city council for San Diego, and she's now the supervisor for like the central downtown district. When she was on the campaign trail to replace Nathan Fletcher, she and I met, and she was, oh yeah, no, guns are fine, and gee, I like guns, and I'm a gun owner. And she went to college in the South somewhere. I think I want to say outside of Atlanta. I may be wrong. And yeah, she's not anti-gun. And meanwhile, there's not a single gun regulation out there. There's not an anti-gun measure that she doesn't love.
But isn't that typical of politicians when they're on the campaign trail? They're always like, oh, my dad and I used to go hunting, or
right.
Everybody's got some anecdotal story to kind of give them credentials. But
but she just lied right to my face.
Her allegiance is to she. The truth is, she probably doesn't have a problem with guns, but she's got to parrot the party line.
Well, and both of them, Terra Lawson-Remer and Monica Montgomery Stepp, are both anti-law enforcement. I don't think that's hyperbole. I think that's pretty accurate.
Well, yeah, that's the new thing. That's if you're going to be a radical leftist, which is what at least San Diego Democrats think they have to be. That's one of your positions you have to hold.
So, and this regulation, like I said, was kind of two birds, one stone. It was, hey, let's harass law enforcement and gun dealers at the same time with one regulation. It didn't pass. It was 2-2, so it didn't have a majority, so it didn't pass, which is great. And I'm so glad that Joel and Jim, worked with us and listened to us and said, yeah, this is totally against our principles and what we're trying to accomplish. But, they're down one supervisor, and my fear is that Terra's going to bring this back after they see whatever new anti-gun, supervisor is.
Well, let's hope John McCain can pull it out.
John McCain, we've had our issues with. I got to tell you, I don't know.
I think he'll probably be better than whoever
than the
else
other two.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope whatever happens, we can block this thing, because it really just doesn't do any good. Basically, if you're an FFL, then you should be able to do business with that FFL. I don't see any advantage to, jump through hoops and.
Well, that's why it's so important to have principles about the Constitution. There are businesses that I don't particularly like. I don't particularly like marijuana dispensaries. From a medical point of view, I think it's a bad thing. We can argue about that all day long. But if it's a legal business, I'm not going to go after that business. I'm not going to try to find clever ways to damage them, because they're a legal business. And you think that the Democrats should have the same principles. Say, like, I don't like guns, but it's in the Constitution and it's a legal business. We need to leave them alone, but they don't think the same way.
And how did you just put it in like in a creative way to go after them? That's exactly what this is. They basically say, hey, we want you to prove all the things that you've already proven. Basically, we want you to prove all the things that we already know about you because you have an FFL. If you don't have an FFL, you wouldn't be able to prove all these things that you take these various steps to get your FFL. But the real issue is they want them to report how many violations they've had, and then they'd be disqualified. Well, there really isn't a gun shop in existence that is violation free, and a violation is such a low.
There's so much paperwork.
Yeah,
and the paperwork's all by hand.
Right.
And it's fraught with errors, and these are not errors that are consequential. These are not errors that are nefarious, but like you said, a perfect example is like what county do you live in? You say I live in the county of USA.
Yeah, right.
That's obviously not trying to get away with anything. It's just somebody who misunderstood the question.
So that would be a violation, and that would basically disqualify a gun shop from being able to. So if a customer puts their county rather than their country or the country rather than their county, I can't remember quite which, and the shop doesn't catch it, through the thousands of guns that they sell, and it's caught and it's a violation, then that shop can't sell firearms to law enforcement agencies.
But I would guess that the industries that the left likes, like the marijuana industry, they're given lots of leeway to make mistakes and have problems and not be shut down.
That is, you know what, Bill, this isn't part of this, but I now that you bring it up, I think it'd be an interesting topic real quick because I've complained about it in the past. Marijuana is still, I know they just rescheduled it, but it's still federally illegal.
Yeah.
But it's legal on a state level. And that puts gun owners in an interesting position because if you're a gun owner and you purchase marijuana legally, if you touch it, whatever, if you buy the little gummies to help you sleep at night, whatever, any kind of, controlled substance, any kind of marijuana product, you're now committing a felony, and because there's this conflict between state and federal. And I've made the complaint in the past that the reason this hasn't been fixed is because Democrats hate guns and Republicans hate pot, and that it's a problem, And what are your thoughts on that? What do you think about? First off, what do you think about it being a felony for any gun owner to touch any kind of pot product? And then second, what do you think about a solution?
Yeah, it's interesting because we're talking a difference between what is technically a violation and then the things that they're really going to go after somebody for. But the problem with that is that in the society that we have now where we use lawfare to get rid of people who we don't like, I mean, if they could have gotten Donald Trump on a felony for using a marijuana gummy and owning a gun at the same time, they would have done it.
Sure.
So yeah, I really think we have to go back to a rule of law society. And if the United States government, if the Congress thinks that the people of the United States want the ability to use marijuana, which it seems like that's the case, then they're going to have to make a decision to vote that in. But I think we're setting up a lot of problems by having these differences between state law and federal law. And basically what you're saying is, I will ignore the laws I don't like, and I will enforce the laws I do like. And in case of Terra, Lawson-Remer, I will enhance the laws that help me,
right? Because
I don't like the people that it affects.
Yeah, which having these laws on the books that are just kind of there, because you're right, it's not being enforced. I don't know if anybody out there is, they're not going to gun owners. And checking them for marijuana or
I've
anything
never heard
like that.
Are the feds even prosecuting people anymore?
My understanding is it's kind of been this, this kind of this stalemate. Like, hey, you leave us alone, we'll leave you alone. It really isn't a big issue. They're not prosecuting, but having these violations on the books, and they're just there in case you step out of line, is
another tool in the tool bag to beat you over the head with if they want.
It's enormously intimidating. It's certainly not it seems very un-American. That's not the country of the self-governed.
I agree.
You know, and I wish there was some political will out there to fix it. But like I said, if you talk to a Republican, he doesn't want to touch marijuana. You talk to a Democrat, they don't want to touch guns. You know, and it's like we've I don't know.
Although I think the sentiment amongst Republicans is changing in that regard. I see a lot of people. I'm against marijuana because I worked in an emergency room, and I probably admitted one patient a week to the hospital for marijuana psychosis. So I mean, I've seen how dangerous it can be, but mine is a medical issue. I don't have a moral issue about it.
Yeah, I've never touched it. I grew up in Florida and Hawaii and California. And how do you get through those 3 states without trying marijuana? Well, I did, but I've never touched it. And but it just seems like I don't know. This just seems like one of those things where it's not a moral issue. It's like, hey, this is just good government, and it seems like it needs to get fixed. And people
I think that the handwriting's on the wall about marijuana. I think it's basically legal everywhere, and it probably we should be in harmony with state and federal law.
I think so too. So okay, so good news is it didn't pass. I hope it doesn't come up again once they seat somebody. But like you said, maybe the next person who gets into the seat, who gets elected, will be more in tune with our concerns. We'll say. So, Sam, what do you think? You got any thoughts on that?
It's just so typical of state and local politics, and you guys out there in California have another level there because your county is the size of a state. But it's so typical of state and county politics of trying to make this regulation or ordinance that mostly consists of making something illegal that's already illegal. Like they've done that here in Virginia a few times, and Mayor Wells, I'm sure you can speak more to this, being, well, a mayor. But it's like, oh well, I got elected by saying I would by saying I would go tough on guns, and I would pass gun control, and so I'm. Looks like it does something, but really doesn't. And so then to my supporters and say, look, I did something without actually doing anything.
Yeah, there's a lot of that happens, sure.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. I'm Michael from Gun Owners Radio. If you liked what you saw, please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and make a comment. Help us out. Go to gunownersradio.com. Thanks for watching.